Throughout history, few figures have captured the imagination like Cain, the firstborn of Adam and Eve. The first murderer, and possibly, the first eternal wanderer. His story is one of jealousy, divine punishment, and mystery. But what if Cain never truly died? What if his curse condemned him to walk the earth forever? This question has intrigued biblical scholars, theologians, and even conspiracy theorists for centuries. Some believe he perished long ago, his fate sealed by divine justice. Others argue that he still roams among us, hidden in plain sight. Could the mark of Cain have granted him unnatural longevity? Or is his story simply a parable about the weight of guilt and eternal punishment? In this video, we'll uncover the fascinating theories surrounding Cain's fate. We'll explore ancient texts, modern interpretations, and even the bizarre idea that Cain might still exist in some form today. By the end, you might have a new perspective on one of the Bible's most mysterious figures. So, is Cain still wandering the earth? Let's dive in. The story of Cain and Abel is one of the most well-known yet haunting narratives in the Bible. Cain, a farmer, and his younger brother Abel, a shepherd, both made offerings to God. However, while Abel's sacrifice was accepted, Cain's was rejected. This sparked jealousy and resentment, ultimately driving Cain to lure Abel into the fields and commit the first recorded murder in human history. But Cain's punishment was not immediate death, it was something far worse. Instead of allowing others to seek revenge, God placed a unique curse upon him. Now you are under a curse and driven from the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it will no longer yield its crops for you. You will be a restless wanderer on the earth. Cain, realizing the gravity of his punishment, lamented, "My punishment is more than I can bear. I will be a restless wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me." In response, God placed a mysterious mark on Cain, ensuring that no one would dare harm him. Not so. Anyone who kills Cain will suffer vengeance 7 times over. This passage introduces the core mystery. Was Cain doomed to wander for all eternity? Or did his punishment have an eventual end? Following this, Cain left to dwell in the land of Nod, east of Eden. There, he started a family, built a city, and seemingly moved beyond his days of wandering. But the Bible never explicitly states how his life ended. Did he die of old age? Was his curse lifted? Or did he continue wandering beyond the pages of Scripture, cursed to never find rest? These gaps in the biblical narrative have led to centuries of speculation, giving rise to a variety of theories about Cain's fate, some traditional, some extraordinary. In the next section, we'll explore these possibilities and see just how far the legend of Cain has spread. Cain's punishment is one of the most debated mysteries in biblical history. Did he die like any other human? Or was he cursed to walk the earth forever? Over the centuries, various theories have emerged, some grounded in ancient texts, others more speculative and even supernatural. Let's explore the most compelling ideas. Theory 1. Cain died a natural or violent death. The most straightforward interpretation is that Cain eventually died, either from old age or by divine retribution. While the Bible does not explicitly mention his death, some ancient texts, such as the Book of Jubilees and the Book of Jasher, provide additional details. The Book of Jasher's account, in this lesser-known Hebrew text, Cain meets his end at the hands of Lamech, one of his descendants. According to the story, Lamech was blind and out hunting with his son. Mistaking Cain for an animal, Lamech fired an arrow and killed him. Realizing his mistake, Lamech lamented bitterly, marking an ironic end to Cain's story, killed unknowingly by his own lineage. The Book of Jubilees version, this ancient Jewish text, tells a different tale, stating that Cain was crushed by the collapse of his own house. In a poetic twist, the very ground that once absorbed Abel's blood became the instrument of Cain's destruction. The text even notes, "For with a stone he had killed Abel, and by a stone was he killed in righteous judgment." These accounts suggest that while Cain's mark may have protected him from human vengeance, it did not make him truly immortal. Theory 2. Cain is still alive, a restless wanderer. A more mysterious theory proposes that Cain never died. This idea stems from the ambiguity in Genesis. The Bible never states when or how he perished, leaving open the possibility that he still roams the earth. Supporters of this theory argue the mark of Cain was not just a deterrent against murder but a sign of immortality or eternal punishment. Cain was cursed to be a restless wanderer, which some interpret as an ongoing, never-ending fate. Some Jewish and Christian traditions speculate that Cain became a nomadic outcast, condemned to a lonely existence outside of society. In modern interpretations, some believe Cain could still be alive today, disguised as an eternal drifter, an anonymous figure moving between cities, or even a forgotten soul hidden in plain sight. Theory 3. Cain survived the Great Flood. A major argument against Cain's survival is the biblical flood. According to Genesis chapter 6, God destroyed almost all life, sparing only Noah, his family, and the animals aboard the ark. If Cain were alive at that time, how could he have escaped? Some believers in Cain's immortality suggest that his mark protected him even from the flood, allowing him to outlast the destruction. He found refuge in a hidden location, escaping divine wrath while humanity was wiped out. Cain may have been transformed into a supernatural being, no longer fully human. This theory is less popular among scholars, but it remains an intriguing possibility for those who take the biblical narrative in a more mysterious direction. Theory 4. Cain became a shadowy power figure. Some interpretations go beyond biblical texts and suggest that Cain did not simply survive, he thrived. According to this theory, Cain mastered survival, knowledge, and power, using his experience over the centuries to rise to influence. Some even link him to secret societies or elite rulers, arguing that he could have shaped history from the shadows. A few interpretations even suggest Cain learned ancient magic or forbidden knowledge, making him an enigmatic force lurking behind world events. While this theory leans into the realm of conspiracy, it adds a fascinating twist to the legend, turning Cain into a ghostly figure manipulating history itself. Theory 5. Cain became Bigfoot or a supernatural creature. One of the most unusual theories is that Cain evolved into something beyond human. Some theorists connect him to mythical creatures, such as Bigfoot, Sasquatch, a wandering giant, living in isolation, avoiding human civilization. Some even cite ancient accounts describing Cain as having an unusual appearance after his punishment. A ghostly drifter, a being that appears throughout history but never truly settles. A cursed immortal, forever doomed to exist, but always hidden from the world. While these ideas stretch beyond biblical tradition, they highlight just how deeply Cain's story has embedded itself in folklore and mystery. Which theory is true? Cain's fate remains one of the most intriguing unanswered questions in the Bible. While many accept that he died, others believe he still walks among us in some form. Whether he met his end by divine justice, survived the flood, or became a hidden wanderer, his story continues to spark curiosity. In the next section, we'll explore the symbolism and modern relevance of Cain's punishment, what his story tells us about guilt, justice, and the eternal consequences of our actions. The story of Cain is more than just an ancient tale of jealousy and divine punishment. It's a narrative that still echoes in modern society. His wandering, his curse, and his isolation serve as powerful symbols for deeper themes: guilt, justice, redemption, and the consequences of our actions. 1. The burden of guilt and regret. Cain's punishment wasn't just physical, it was psychological. He was condemned to roam the earth, forever marked by his crime. This reflects a universal truth: guilt can be a heavier burden than any physical punishment. In modern times, we see this in individuals who carry the weight of their past mistakes. Some examples include a person who committed a grave wrong and lives in exile from their community, unable to reintegrate. Soldiers or former criminals who struggle with PTSD, knowing they cannot undo their past actions. Public figures who fall from grace, forever known for their transgressions despite attempts to change. Cain's fate reminds us that actions have lasting consequences, and sometimes, the hardest punishment is the inability to escape one's own conscience. 2. The restless wanderer, a symbol for the outcast. The phrase, restless wanderer, applies not just to Cain, but to many in today's world. The homeless, who drift from place to place, disconnected from society. Exiles and refugees, forced to leave their homes due to war, persecution, or political reasons. Individuals who struggle to find a purpose, always searching but never settling. Cain's wandering reflects the loneliness and alienation that many feel today. Whether due to their own actions or circumstances beyond their control, they are unable to find peace. 3. The mark of Cain, protection or curse. The mark of Cain has been interpreted in various ways. Was it a sign of divine mercy, preventing him from being killed, or a scarlet letter, marking him as forever unclean? In today's world, this parallels criminal records. Some individuals, even after serving their time, find themselves forever labeled and unable to re-enter society. Social stigma. People who have made mistakes, whether through addiction, financial ruin, or past behavior, often find themselves unable to escape their reputations. Survivor's guilt. Some who have lived through tragedies feel marked, as if they are different from the rest of society. Cain's mark serves as a reminder of how society treats those who have erred, sometimes with mercy, but often with permanent judgment. 4. The myth of the eternal wanderer. The idea that Cain might still be alive today, hidden among us, feeds into broader cultural fears. We often hear of mysterious figures throughout history. Legends of immortal figures like the Wandering Jew, a man cursed to roam the earth for mocking Jesus. The idea of ageless drifters, people who appear throughout history but never seem to grow old. Stories of supernatural beings, like vampires or ghosts, condemned to roam forever. Cain's story taps into these myths, reinforcing the idea that some crimes are so great that even time itself cannot erase them. 5. Redemption. Is forgiveness possible? One of the biggest questions left unanswered in Cain's story is whether he ever repented. Some theories suggest that he changed, settled down, and started a city, perhaps seeking redemption, but the Bible remains silent on whether he was ever forgiven. This leads to a profound moral question. Can those who commit terrible sins ever truly be redeemed? Does society allow for second chances, or do some crimes permanently mark a person? Is justice about punishment, or is it about transformation? Cain's story challenges us to think about how we treat those who have done wrong. Do we believe in punishment alone, or do we leave room for redemption? Cain's legacy, more than just a Bible story. Cain's tale is not just a lesson from ancient scripture, it is a story that continues to resonate today. Whether as a metaphor for guilt, a symbol of the outcast, or a warning about unchecked jealousy, his legacy is deeply embedded in the human experience. And so, we return to the question, is Cain still wandering the earth? Maybe not in a literal sense, but his spirit, the restless wanderer, the marked man, the eternal exile, lives on in those who carry the burden of their past, unable to find true peace. In the next section, we'll conclude with the key takeaways from this exploration and invite you to share your own thoughts on Cain's fate. Cain's story is one of mystery, punishment, and profound questions that stretch beyond the pages of Scripture. His fate remains ambiguous. Was he a cursed immortal, a restless wanderer, or simply another man who met his end long ago? What makes Cain's tale so compelling is not just the possibility of his survival, but the deeper themes it represents. His journey forces us to confront some of humanity's greatest dilemmas. The weight of guilt. How does one live with the consequences of their actions? Cain's punishment was not just exile but the inescapable burden of his crime. In many ways, this mirrors the internal struggles of those who have wronged others, seeking redemption yet never truly finding peace. The outcast and the marked. Cain's mark was both a protection and a condemnation. In today's world, We see people who carry their past mistakes like an invisible mark, forever judged by society. It raises the question, do we allow people to move on? Or do we force them to remain outcasts? The search for redemption. While some believe Cain remained a cursed wanderer, others suggest he changed, built a city, and tried to start anew. Can someone who has committed great wrongs ever truly find redemption? Or are some actions unforgivable? The big question. Is Cain still wandering the earth? At the heart of the mystery lies one simple question. Is Cain still out there? If you take the biblical text literally, Cain likely perished long ago, perhaps from old age, perhaps by divine intervention. But if you embrace the more symbolic or supernatural interpretations, Cain may still exist in some form today. Maybe he walks among us as a forgotten drifter, a man with no home, no identity, cursed to roam forever. Perhaps he has ascended to power, using centuries of knowledge to control the world from the shadows. Or, more likely, Cain's story is not about a literal person but a reflection of the human experience, the weight of sin, the desire for redemption, and the fear of being cast out. What do you believe? Cain's fate is one of the Bible's most fascinating unanswered questions, and interpretations vary widely. But now, we turn the question to you. Do you think Cain died a natural death? Or was he truly cursed to wander forever? Is his story just a metaphor? Or could there be something more to it? And if Cain was still alive today, where do you think he would be? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into biblical mysteries, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more intriguing discussions. Until next time.